Today we're going to be going round by round, some of the must-draft players in each round for the both of us. Get you ready for the upcoming fantasy drafts you're going to be doing either this weekend or next. Fantasy draft season is here. The NFL season is only a couple of weeks away. Let's lock it in, get ready. It's time to win some championships. You may not win your championship in your draft, but you damn sure can lose it. Let's lock it in. Let's ride. Welcome back in. Welcome back in. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So today we're going to be going round by round on who a player is a must draft player for us. Of course, there's some other options we could go with here, but we just narrowed the list down of players we kind of really want here. Obviously, if you have the 101, we're going Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. But without further ado, Robbie, who's your guy in the first round?
Yeah. First round. Obviously, like you said, if you have the 101, 102, we know who we're going with, one of those two guys. But outside of that, the guy that I think I am going to be targeting every single time I can is Joe Mixon. He's going at the back end of the first round, around pick number 10. And man, this was a top 5 running back last year. And now you see his offensive line go from bottom 5th in the NFL to probably a top 10 offensive line. They have absolutely overhauled that team. And I'm really excited about that efficiency then for Joe Mixon. The one thing that's kind of held him back is he's always just kind of been, an average runner because of the offensive line, the yards before contact. They have not been great, but his broken tackles, his yards after contact has been good. So let's get him this better line. Let's see those rushing totals creep up, and hopefully he can return this 12 touchdowns that he had last year and maybe even see more. So excited about Joe Mixon in the first round.
Yeah, especially back half. I mean, if you miss out on the Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson tier, and if you want to start running back, go running back there. I do like Joe Mixon quite a bit, especially in the offense that he's in. So next up for me is going to be Najee Harris, and I feel like that he's gotten a little bit too much hate this offseason, and it doesn't make a lot of sense because I don't know if there's a running back maybe not named Christian McCaffrey, or really that's probably the list of guys that are going to get as much opportunity as he's going to get. Last year, he was first in his opportunity share with 86% opportunity share. He just doesn't come off the field. He plays on virtually almost every snap. Opportunity is absolute king in fantasy football. Averaged 18.1 carries last year, 5.5 targets last year, had a 14.5% target share. Yes, we probably can reasonably expect the 94 targets is probably going to come down a little bit now that Big Ben is gone. But I still think it's fair to imagine that he probably could finish somewhere. Maybe he drops down from the 5.5 targets per game he saw last year, maybe down to 4.5 targets per game this year, which would put him right around 70 targets, which is fine. It's not as high as it was last year, but I think we could all see maybe a little bit more explosive offense. His offense was absolutely dreadful last year. He is the only running back in the last 5 years outside of Saquon Barkley finished in the top 5 in fantasy football, where their offense was bottom half of the league. And so, yes, this offense should be much better than what it was last year, or it should be better than what it was last year. It's just hard to replace his opportunity share that you're going to get from him. He is a safe pick everywhere you go. Averaged 17.5 fantasy points per game last year. He was first in routes run, 25th in yards per route run. Love Najee Harris where you can absolutely get him. Second round, we both came to the same conclusion of the same guy. I almost went Javonte Williams here, but I can't pass up Saquon Barkley. So, Robbie, tell us why we are all in on Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a guy that we both really, really enjoy. This is a guy that I actually have as a top 8 running back, that he's coming off the board as running back 13. So I think you're getting a really good value here in the second round. And I'm trying not to leave drafts without him going at the end of the second round. We are talking about an improved coaching staff, an improved offensive line, and he is healthy now. We are a full year plus removed from any injury, right? Like, we are finally hopefully going to see that return to what Saquon was before some of this injury. And so I'm excited to see him return back to that form. And on top of that, like I said, he's got that line, he's got the coaching staff. It's really just, it's a simple case. I know I'm not saying a whole lot of groundbreaking stuff, but you just need to trust the talent and know that he just doesn't have this dumpster fire around him with Joe Judge and company. So that's why I'm backing on Saquon. How about you?
Absolutely. I'm all in. I think I actually have him as a top 6 running back so far in my rankings. So I'm a little bit higher on him than you are. But I'm not worried about Saquon Barkley and the injuries. He is going to be absolutely fine. I think he's going to get a monster workload here. There's nobody behind him to worry about. So draft Saquon Barkley with confidence. Get out of here with all the injury narrative bullshit. Next up, we're in the third round here. I went A.J. Brown. And right now he's going 28th overall, or wide receiver 11 off the board. one thing that I love so much about AJ Brown is just his efficiency. He's been one of the most efficient wide receivers since entering the league. Last year, he had a 27% target share. He was on a very run heavy offense. Obviously, we know that's what the Titans do, because he was 73rd in routes run last year and 51st in route participation last year. But he was third in market share of the air yards. He had 63 receptions, 869 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. He obviously missed time last year, averaged 14 fantasy points per game. He was also 7th in yards per route run. Love to see that. And 12 in yards per team pass attempt. Now, he is going over to a team that last year was very run heavy. But I think we're going to see a change of the tide here. I think they're going to throw the ball more. You have to be able to see what you have in Jalen Hurts. I think they're going to open up this offense. They didn't trade for A.J. Brown for this team to only throw the ball 20 times a game. They had no weapons last year outside of Devontae Smith, who was a rookie, and Dallas Goedert. Now both of those are back. Year 2 of Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert's still there. Excellent offensive line and a very shaky ground game, to be fair. And so I think A.J. Brown could actually see more targets than what he sees, especially if he can stay healthy. He's already a very efficient wide receiver in his touches, great in yards after the catch. Now you get him into this offense and an offense that I think is going to open up. And I think you could probably see him get probably 7 or 8 targets per game, somewhere in that range. And I think a very healthy opportunity on a week-to-week basis. So I'm buying A.J. Brown, and I think he's somebody that's going to be drafted much higher than what he is right now. He's almost going about 30th overall right now. So love A.J. Brown in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that ascent happen for other quarterbacks when they finally gotten that alpha wide receiver. I think we can see that with Jalen Hurts, and that's all the better for A.J. Brown. Love that pick. Mine is one that you're not going to like, but I know it's one that I feel really strongly about. It's one of the best values, I think, in drafts right now, and that's Zeke Elliott all the way in the 3rd round. I think that just the stat that I need to say here is that when this player is healthy, when Zeke Elliott is healthy and he has a starting quarterback, Dak Prescott, since his rookie year, he's top 6 in points per game. No ifs, no ands, no buts. If he has Dak Prescott and he's not injured, he's going to be a top 6 guy. Now, there can be the pushback of, hey, he's getting a little bit older, a little bit more wear on the tires. Sure, he's not going there. He's not going as top 6, top 8, top 10. He's going all the way in the 3rd round, outside of your top 15 running backs. And so you don't even have to take him there, but he has that potential. And so that's why I'm excited about him. And if he stays healthy in 2022, and obviously there's no crazy Dak injury, I'm excited about what he can do in this Cowboys offense that's now starting to lack some playmakers. They're really going to need to lean on him, CeeDee Lamb, and some of the others there in Big D.
Hey, we can keep it moving here, because I am not going to bring anything positive to the table on Ezekiel Elliott take. I am much more team Tony Pollard, and that's my guy, and I will go down with that ship, but we will not be going into that, because we could talk all night about that. So let's move on to the 4th round. We have Michael Pittman here. We both have Michael Pittman here, which, listen, this is a Michael Pittman show. We absolutely both love Michael Pittman. I think he takes another step forward this year. He gets that upgrade at quarterback with Matt Ryan. There's nobody else there in terms of target competition. He could see a massive bump in targets this year, and he's just an absolute stud and baller. And so I think this offense is going to be more pass heavy. Frank Reich's already talked a lot about that over training camp, that his team needs to throw the ball more. I think that's why they went out and got Matt Ryan, who Matt Ryan may not be the same quarterback he was prime Matt Ryan, but I still think he's more than capable of being a 4,000-yard passer again, and maybe drop, 30 touchdowns this year. So I love Michael Pittman, and everywhere you can get him.
Yeah, man, we're looking at a big ascension from his rookie year to his sophomore year, right? He doubles his receptions, 40 to 88. He doubles his yardage, 500 to over 1,000, and goes from 1 touchdown to 6 touchdowns. And that's with Carson Wentz. And I think people probably aren't considering how much better Matt Ryan is at playing the quarterback position than Carson Wentz, just because they kind of view them both as this middling tier quarterback. But the big thing with Matt Ryan is he throws a deep ball way better than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is one of the lower percentage completions in deep throws, and Matt Ryan's one of the higher. And so that's that's really exciting when you look at Michael Pittman and the type of targets he can connect on as this jump ball down the field type of guy. Maybe that yardage starts to creep up even farther. Those touchdowns go from 6 to maybe 8 or 9. And we're talking about a guy that should be wide receiver 1. I mean, 88 receptions last year, and we're looking to get better. This is really, really exciting year for Michael Pittman. I think he is a top 10 wide receiver going in the 4th round.
Let's move on to the 5th round here. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Amon-Ra St. Brown this year has kind of gotten a lot of flack about, and really there's only one narrative about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Is only reason he got the production last year is because DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson got hurt. But here's the thing. This is why I push back, is that targets are earned. And he didn't just earn a few targets a game. I mean, he was turned out to be the alpha over that second half of the season. And I think that some of the pushback, too, is that people act like this is a very crowded room. One, Jameson Williams, I don't know when he's going to be ready. It may be November. It could be December before he's even ready. I don't think they're going to push him at all. First round pick. He's already starting the year on the pup. I don't know exactly when he's going to be ready and when he's going to be ready to go. And so you can't factor him in. And then from there, you have DJ Chark, who is the one-hit wonder, had 1 year and has done nothing since. Much more of a deep threat. Yes, TJ Hawkinson and Swift are both still there. Obviously, they're going to factor in. But I also think this offense is just going to be a lot better than what people think it's going to be. I think people are still looking at this team as like a 3-win team. I think this team could sneakily win 7 or 8 games this year. Like, I think this team is going to be better than what people think that it's going to be. I think Dan Campbell has the team going in the right direction. I think Jared Goff, we've seen if you surround him with good pass catchers, we saw it back whenever he was with LA that that he can support multiple wide receivers. So that's not a really concern for me. He did it with when he had Todd Gurley and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. He was able to support all of those guys along with a tight end. And so I'm not worried about Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I actually think this is a pretty solid value for him because I think he can finish as a high-end wide receiver 2 this year.
Someone's jumping in on the hard knocks. I love it. He's definitely a featured guy on there. He's been looking really, really good. I'm going to say the player that I think is the best value in the entire draft right now for me, and that's Courtland Sutton going here in the 5th. I have Courtland Sutton as a top 8 wide receiver, and if you can get him all the way back here at the end of the 5th, I think that's just fantastic. He had some injuries, but he performed with Joe Flacco and Drew Lock. He was a wide receiver 2 that year, over 1,000 yards, over 1,100 yards, a handful of touchdowns, and 70 some receptions. And so now he goes from the average run of the mill, old Joe Flacco, below average Drew Lock, to elite Russ Wilson with one of the highest touchdown percentages just behind Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. So we should be looking at double-digit touchdowns. We should be looking at a high target share volume similar to a DK Metcalf, right? It's really only Jerry Jeudy and maybe a couple of tight ends to mix in with the injury to Tim Patrick. So on the outside, he's going to be looking for Courtland Sutton early and often, and I'm really, really excited about getting him in the 5th.
6th round, let's move on to that. I have Darnell Mooney. Surprise, surprise. I've been all over Darnell Mooney all offseason. Still have him as a top 20 wide receiver this year. 140 targets last year. I think he could push 150, maybe even 160 if everything goes well. There's nobody else there. Again, no target competition for him whatsoever. It's him and Cole Kmet. And then you have the running backs, and that's pretty much it. I think Justin Fields take a big step forward this year. I think they utilize Justin Fields in the proper way. I think that you get him outside using his legs, use RPOs, play action, and really kind of get him on the move. He is a terrific deep ball passer. I think Darnell Mooney is a very good deep ball receiver as well. He is, and I think Darnell Mooney kind of takes another step forward this year. And I think, like I continue to say, and I'm gonna keep saying it, I think he's Deontay Johnson of this year. And I think he has the upside to finish as a low end wide receiver 1. But at worst, he's a solid wide receiver 2. This year. So 6th round, Darnell Mooney, I'll take it all.
Yeah, and I'm taking Gabe Davis because of that offensive upside and his red zone upside, man. Obviously, he showed out in that playoff game where he scores 4 touchdowns in that epic game. But even before that, I mean, once Emmanuel Sanders started to fade away, Cole Beasley started to fade away towards the end of the season, he really started scoring and getting targeted at a much higher rate. And so we've seen this breakout happen. There's just this offseason that's kind of broken it in half for us, and we're going to see it continue here with week 1 of the 2022 season. So I'm really excited about him catching passes from Josh Allen. We've already seen it in the preseason where they just absolutely torched the Broncos there, made it look easy. Allen to Gabe Davis for a touchdown. So I think it's hard to find a higher boom pick after the first 60 picks are done. And we're looking in the 6th round and on. I think Gabe Davis is going to be one of those guys for me that I have to be looking at in the 6th round.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.